we are talking about how to talk to our kids about digital safety. What your perspective is, or what your definition is of digital safety?
So safety, I guess it's true across any type of, regardless of the word, if it's health or anything else. It's being careful about how much you expose yourself online. I think that's for me, both as a professional as well as a parent, is how much of my kids' real life are being exposed online for the rest of the world to see. Because once it's out there, it doesn't come back.
I see that as privacy, and I see safety as the understanding of what to do about that information, and where your personal, as a child or a parent or a teacher or just a human, where your personal boundaries are, and understanding what those are, as opposed to just kind of blindly wandering out into the meadow of craziness that might be out there. So I see safety as the education and the awareness and the wherewithal that you bring to the table.
So I think there's various levels on that. There's, from the point of view of safety like there was a lot of conversation about college and having a safe profile for the future, but there's also, I've interviewed a mother whose daughter was kidnapped. There was people that are there's online predators. We've talked to families who've dealt with sextortion, and that, to me, that when we're talking about digital safety, there's that level, plus there's a very minor level of keeping the kids safe from cyberbullying, from some of the minor issues that they deal with on a daily basis.
I think I see digital safety as just your presence online in general. It's such a broad term, how much you are letting into your life, but then how much you are pouring into other people's lives. I think it's not just what are you taking, from outside sources, whether that be, sex coming your way or predators that you're inviting into your life, information that you're sharing, but also what are you doing to others online. So it's your digital footprint, both, coming and going.
I look at digital safety a little different than a lot of people. I look at it from a risk management perspective. Every one of us will take different levels of risk in who we are online, who we are in a community, who we are in a conversation. Students are the same way. And depending on their strength and their ability to manage and take risk online, their perception of safety and digital safety varies across all based on type of user and where they sit in their social hierarchy. So digital safety is a thing that's constantly moving, and it's defined by the individual.
I think that is how our kids see it, where I would say, please don't post it. Your kid's like, it's just a picture. Why are you getting so upset about it? Or I would say, don't get on that app. And your kid was like, it's just nothing. I'm just hanging around with my friends and stuff. So as educators, professionals, and parents, how do we help our kids figure out on that scale of safety that how can they learn, okay, maybe that's not safe, they figure that out internally, but also how can we help guide them when our kids will be like, it's just a picture, it's just a text, it's nothing.
I think it's part of the larger parenting and caregiver conversation about impulse control and context and longevity of content because my 8-9-year-old might not realize that eating an entire family-sized thing of Skittles will be a bad idea.
Yes,
even though last time he did a very similar thing, he threw up in the bushes, he will still do it again because he's 8 or 9 because he doesn't understand consequence. But it's the same thing. Like if I'm having that conversation with him 15, there might be a bigger problem that he's not getting that kind of thing. So I think it's just understanding the context at where those conversations are happening. Yes, don't send that text, don't send that picture, don't post it to your profile. But if that kid doesn't understand any kind of impulse control or any kind of cause and effect, the conversation needs to be put within the context of like, I need to keep having this conversation, I need to continue the message, and it has to be repetitive. I think we worry about like black and white rules and not think about, like you were saying, the child in context, the age that they're at, where they are in their development, what they've done in the past. Everything's unique.
We've been dealing a little bit with something like that. Teen Safe, originally the idea that behind Teen Safe was the parents should monitor, and they felt that it was like parents should monitor. It wasn't spying because it's like keeping their child safe, it's guiding them. What we're observing now, we're shifting the dialogue away from monitoring to using that as conversation starters, because you can't control, and new apps are coming out, and there's so much going, so it's not just like you monitoring and being heavy-handed, top-down, and monitoring, supervising the kid, but teaching the kid from an early age, and obviously evolving with them, about how to handle, like, what's going to happen, what can happen when this happens. Like, there's new video conferencing apps where the kids are turning on the phone, and there's 6 of them hanging out on video apps, and like, there's no way a parent can sit there and monitor all of that. Nobody can. So it's teaching the kids to self-regulate to this extent from an early age.
I work with teenagers, 7th and 8th graders, and so kind of the biggest question that they always have when you say do or don't do this is why, right? It's like they go from 2 years old where they're saying why, or 2 or 3, why everything. They kind of get through those middle school years, and then they get to junior high, and then they're back to the why everything. But I think it's such a good reminder for us adults to explain, to engage in that conversation and talk about why. We can't just say, don't use that app, it's trash. Because they're going to go, why? You don't know anything. Forget it. Forget you. You don't know what's going on. So we talk to them. I had a student come to me who used Kik Messenger. She downloaded Kik against her parents' knowledge. She started communicating with this guy who started, contacting her through other social media platforms, not just Kik, and she's kind of got freaked out a little bit about it. So she came to me, and she's, was really guilty. I need to tell you something. I need to talk about this. So instead of saying, just don't use it, because that's not usable, she's going to just turn away, walk out of my office, and the conversation's going to be over. I started asking her questions. Well, why are you doing that? Why did you share that? Why did you even talk? Why did you download the app in the first place if your parents don't want you to? All of that kind of stuff. And we talked about why. And I said, well, why do you think you feel guilty right now? And kind of had her put the pieces together. And it wasn't very long. This was over lunchtime. We were walking around. I was out at lunch duty. We were walking around the blacktop, and she was talking to me all about this. And after school, so 2 periods later, after school, she came in and she said, my mom's picking me up today. Do you think you could call her and tell her to come into your office so we could tell her about this together? Sure enough, he was a predator. They had to call the police. They had to change her phone number, all that kind of stuff. So she was in danger. But she was only chatting with him for a couple days before she came in and told me about it. But if I would have just said, oh, you have to delete that app, you have to block him, you have to do that right now because you're in danger, she would have walked out because she wasn't heard. So I think, how do we, the whole question, huge long story, the whole question was, how do we teach our kids how to determine what's safe and what's not, and how to be, smart digital citizens? I think it's really engaging in that conversation. Why are you interested in this app? Why is it a draw to you? Let's discuss that. Let's address that. Then we can find the appropriate outlet. We can find the appropriate app together that's going to satisfy that need as a teenager or a preteen or tween, whoever you're dealing with.
Kids are looking for structure, right? So if you go in hard and say, this is why I don't want to take, they want that structure at the end of the day. They may rebuff you a little in the beginning. If they're a 16-year-old boy like my son, it's like, Dad, you know what I'm talking about. But that's what they're looking for. So you arm yourself with the information, and it's there, and you just have to have it at the right time in the moment. That's what's happening, right? We're all reacting. How do you get proactive? How do you move off your heels onto your toes? And you do it before you give them the smartphone or pay for the bill, or you have those conversations at the very beginning, so that you can always go back and say, I told you, and it was conditional. Yeah. And those conditions are good. They're structured.
When we were kids, we had rules as well. Don't talk to strangers. Don't cross the street before looking left and right. Don't take candy from someone. Don't get into someone else's car. I mean, there were basic rules. The same rules apply today. They're just across the media, right? They're not just in real life, but in virtual world as well. And I think parents, all of us got used to everything being easy. There has to be an app for everything. You want to go shopping, Amazon Fresh, you want to order a movie, right? I mean, Netflix. Life became easy. We expecting to have like some button to outsource our parenthood, right? And a lot of parents do expect to have some kind of a simple solution. To make it even worse, this is the first generation in modern history that kids know so much more than their parents. I don't remember any other generation that gap between how much kids know and their parents. I mean, kids are always smarter than their parents. That's evolution, right? But kids this generation know so much more, and parents feel so educated that gap creates even a bigger chasm between them. And we just need to take a step back and tell parents, same rules apply to you, twist them a little bit, but then start talking to your kids.
There is so much focus on the fear around the internet. It's bad, it's going to kill your kids are going to do this. There's a lot of TV shows around, oh, this is what happens when kids are online. So how do we as educators help manage that fear, but also give our parents and our kids another side of what the internet looks like so they can understand that it's not as unsafe as maybe the media may portray it sometimes?
There's a large percentage of parents, they somehow believe/hope that the internet will go away one day. Right? It sounds funny, I know, but it's real. A lot of parents, we really have to communicate that this is here to stay. You know, VR, AR, wearable. I mean, it's only going to get, I'll have to say worse, more engaged, more involved, more closer to us, and we just need to understand that. I think that's the first step, is acceptance. Then continue with giving them tools, and I agree with everything everyone else said, is package it in a way that's easy, quick to consume. We're all busy, we all have a life, and we don't want a job and kids and everything else. Who has time for long articles to read about, and who has time to educate themselves? I really hope that between us, Teen Safe, and many others will help parents leverage technology to, I don't believe parents should become experts on social media and apps. I mean, it evolves so quickly, there's no way we'll ever catch up with that. So we need help from technology companies to help us.
I think that what will always be a constant is the soft skills of parenting. And no matter what app is there, if you have laid the foundation with your children of communication, transparency, resilience, I think resilience is becoming one of the lost arts in our childhood, because people can't take, I mean, bullying didn't start 10 years ago, and we keep acting like it did. And people were not flipping out at the level, and they're like, oh no, but there's too many areas, and they can go home and get bullied, and kids were bullied at all times in all history. The idea that we're not, that we're running in to save every situation with our kids' situations. If they get a bad grade in a test, we're going to go talk to the teacher. We're not letting them fail. We're not letting them do the parenting ideologies that have been happening, I think, are the main contributor, not WhatsApp, Kik, Snapchat. I don't think it's the apps that are there. It's just a new forum for the kids to be going through the same developmental milestones as before. We're just approaching it in more of this kind of terror situation, as opposed to kind of stepping up and being the parents, being the caregivers, being the community members, raising them like a village like we used to do, and we kind of got away from that. And I think we need to get back there. If we see bad activities as someone sitting on the bus, I'm going to say something, as opposed to, going, oh gosh, the parents of those kids probably not doing anything right for them. But we need to help out as a society. And I'm a digital person. I mean, I make video games for a living. So, but I really think it starts in not just the homes, because some parents are not able to or don't want to kind of engage on that level. It's everyone who engages with a child or a youth or anyone, a teenager, has to kind of contribute to it.
That I think one of the things that has evolved over our technological advances is that parents are tasked with more, which means I think that's why they get more controlling. So we expect every parent to produce a perfect child, and when they don't, we're shaking the finger at them. So I think it's kind of been the cyclical thing. The parent gets shamed, the parent is told to produce a perfect child, so then they over-parent because they want that child to be perfect, so they don't have to deal with the shame, and then the kid is over. It's unfortunately the cyclical thing that I think, again, talking about, and I think you said earlier that we have so much information now. It's we have so much research that is telling us, jump here or else you'll die, sit here or else your kids won't make it to college, lean back over here and then this will happen. I think the more information we have, I think we have to realize that we as educators and professionals have to kind of help filter some of that for our parents, so that way when they go online, they Google how to help my kid get straight A's, we help them filter out what that looks like for them. We help them filter out what does it mean to get straight A's. There was a man I was talking to earlier today who was talking about how it's not really about getting our kids to college, because we don't prep them for college, we just prep them to get into college. But they don't actually know what to do once they get there. And I think that that's a bigger systemic issue that I'm going on and on about. But, and I'll stop there. When parents come and they say, or educators even, because I think we have more digital classrooms now, right? And kids are very intelligent. You say, here's your Chromebook, do your homework. They say, let me get in here and go on YouTube. So how do we, as the adults who might not always be aware of our kids, I say, here's your Chromebook, do your homework. I think that's what they're doing. What do I do next? How do I become more aware without monitoring, without spying? How do I help my kid do their homework on the Chromebook that the school gave them?
I think you just start talking to them. You just start opening that conversation. I don't think that any teenager wants a parent that is a know-it-all, especially a digital know-it-all. They don't want you to sit down and be like, listen here, Sonny, here's Kik, and I'm going to show you how to use it. You know, they're going to be like, I'm 10 steps ahead of you, and they will be. So I think you start the conversation, say, what's going on? What are you using? Oh, that's a cool app. You know, show me how to use it. You know, and you kind of, and that will take the fear away for the parents as well. You know, that whole, like, I hope it just goes away. I'm not going to look at it. I know they're going to use it. I'm not going to look at it, and then they'll figure it out, and we won't ever have this conversation. That's not a great approach either. But parents will never catch up to their students. So you just have to be honest and transparent. You know, pick a couple that you want to engage with, learn the basics of it, learn the safety features of it, so that you can kind of have that conversation with your students too. You know, look for the gear icon and kind of go through that to teach them some safety habits, you know, so that they can block out some of the negative things that might come their way before it comes their way. But I think just being transparent, you know, that's great that your classroom is digital. Tell me what it's like. That wasn't I didn't grow up in a digital classroom. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you distracted in class? You know, and have them kind of just open up to you. You know, all the studies say the more open the communication between students and parents, the less likely students are to misuse social media. If they know they can come to you and they can say, whoa, this got out of hand. You know, kids come to me all the time and they say, this got out of hand. They'll show me the Snap stories, you know, in my classroom. They'll be like, can I play it for you, Miss Takis? And I'm like, totally. And they'll show me the stuff. They'll show me the Instagram post, all that stuff, because they know I'm not going to shut them down. I'm not going to judge them. And I think parents, you know, if they just open that up too, you're going to have the same conversations.
So we recommend to parents to use what's in the media and different stories and what's happening in their school as conversation starters. You know about stranger danger, and you start working on stranger danger and crossing the street with your kids really early. So now, like, having these conversations needs to be a thing. Like, it needs to be part of the ongoing weekly dialogue that you have around dinner table. Like, it needs to be a thing that gets addressed all the time. I read about, or, you know, this happened where this kid committed suicide because of that. What do you think? Or, you know, it happened because of this app. Or what do you think about this new app? Are you guys using it? Is this something that it's in your circle? And then just basically have an ongoing conversation. And it's not being top heavy and you can't use this app because this kid committed suicide. No. What do you think went wrong? How did they use it incorrectly? How can this be? What would you do if this happened to you? And just letting it be a conversation starter.
When a student is so ashamed they won't even talk to their friends about a problem they're having, that's when you have the most disconnectedness, the highest risk. And so if you can track when things aren't going well, and other people can say, hey, he's withdrawn, and you can start to gather these circumstantial data around how they're disconnecting. And even if they won't reach out to anyone, if you can identify them early, then you start to win. Alternatively, if they know where all the resources are that are safe, that are anonymous, to get on the anonymous tip lines and helplines that are out there, where they know they can text because they can't talk because there's abuse going on in the house, you know, giving them agency to solve their own problems. These kids are smart and they'll figure it out. And so you have to give them room and freedom, even when they're making mistakes. But you also have to say, hey, if you won't talk to me, talk to someone else, or just go to this set of resources which are good. And we have to create that optionality because everyone's different, right? We all engage differently. We all explain things differently and feel differently about everything. So these kids are the same. So you just to say, hey, I'm there for you. If you can't come to me, then you should go here or you should go there. And that way, you'll actually build the bridge that you're looking to build with them.
How can we help create, you know, more digital safety and more awareness around digital safety?
One of my clients is it's a nonprofit. Started actually in California. I think that was in Washington now, but it's called I Can Helpline, and it's directly focused toward educators and administrators to help them in situations where they don't know what's going on. There's a sexting ring happening in the school on whatever app is hot this week, and or something they just don't know how to report an image. Some kid wrote a flame site up of a teacher, and you're like, I asked everybody in the school, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do about this. You can call them and you can, get advice on it. They have connections to the safety boards at Facebook and Twitter and all of the safety boards. So they have, like, I call it like the red phone, the red bat phone, and they can call those places and expedite a takedown request if needed, or contact NCMEC or Interpol or whatever needs to happen on that level, because they have those connections. So you just have kind of like a help, a little bit of help and advice. It's called icanhelpline.org. Yeah, and it's a toll-free kind of number you can call, or you can send in tickets about it. So I think that's a cool resource that specifically for an educator audience, I think that would be a great one for you guys to know about.
I recommend, I believe it's Common Sense Media who started, the website has a ton of information, but also a device-free dinner. Are they the ones that do that? So I recommend, of course, having software and all that, but having a time where it's device-free, where you talk about what's happening and just setting it into the families. They have soccer, they have this, we have device talk, and then using that as an opportunity.
I think the best piece of advice is to just start learning. Just kind of get out there, get into what's going on. Set your Google alerts to social media teams or something like that, so that you can get some emails, every couple days or something like that, so you can stay up on this stuff. Just to decrease your fear so that you can start that conversation. There's great software out there. TeenSafe is one, Visor is another, RPACT is one. There's great programs out there for parents to use to help students so that they can really guide them to use digital things very safely. But I think just kind of getting involved in the conversation, taking the first step, like you are all doing here, going to a conference, having your school host a parent night, something like that. I know that sounds super old school, to do a parent night, but basic is good, and just kind of giving them the basics. Here's what's hot right now. It changes every year. Just kind of keep them in the loop so that they can start asking those questions. And if your teens know, my students know that we have a parent night. My students know that I talk to their parents about this stuff all the time. So they know that mom and dad probably know what's going on. So that door is already open.
My best advice is not my own. It comes from some of my principals that I work with around the country. And it's go talk to your principal and ask him, as your child goes from elementary school where they have one teacher all day long and you have much more contact, to 6 teachers in 6 periods, and ask that principal, what are his policies and procedures with respect to the safety of your children online and when there are behavioral instances? What do they do? How do they follow up? How much do they care? How vigilant they are? And if that principal, which is 60% of the principals in the U.S., is my number, doesn't really give you the right answer, you pull your kid out of that school, or, and this is, right? Or make sure that you're active in that school's PTA and what's going on. Because you trust and sign over your child from bus stop to bus stop every day. Every right you have to that child, you give to that principal. He's in your care, her care. Their number one job for your child is safety. And you want that to happen. And all the interaction, most of the face-to-face interaction and socialization that goes on in a child's day happens during that 6 or 8 hour period every day. So you should be vigilant, on it, and engaged. And if you think that there's not the proper leadership in that school, you either have to make a change or make them change. And you need to ask questions. You need to do your due diligence. How many incidents have you had in the last year? Right? You need to look at the makeup. How many incidents have you had in the last 6 years? How many teachers have you had to fire? Ask a few questions. Understand what's going on. You'll be scared to death after you get the answers, but know it's been going on for a long time, and you'll get to the right answers sooner or later. But if they're not vigilant about their teachers and the safety of your children, you don't want them there, because your children's going to be at much higher risk. So I put that out there because the downside is a lost education and a lot more.
everything starts with a conversation at home, and it's really parenting 101. I mean, we have this great video on our website where we interviewed parents and kids, and once we interviewed the kids separately from the parents, and then put them together, the parents were shocked how much their kids will actually contributed, and actually they agree with a lot of what they thought they will not agree. So just parenting 101. I do believe that technology can help us. I don't think technology is the be-all and everything, but it's definitely, we can't use yesterday's tools to solve tomorrow's problems. We have to leverage technology. So one tool that I definitely recommend is called Bark. It's B-A-R-K. It's a new app. It allows parents to they use technology like AI and all kind of natural language processing to listen to the conversation the kids have online and just report to the parents if there are any weird patterns. So if they're talking about sex or drugs or guns or something, the parents will be alerted. So it's a great tool. Again, maintain the privacy boundaries so you can't read everything. No, not that you will ever be able to read all of your kids' text messages. If you've ever seen teens group text, hey, hi, how you doing? Fine, right? I mean, it's pretty boring, so it's undoable. Definitely, I will shamelessly promote Unglue. I think that's another great tool that helps empower kids to make the right decisions. I mean, we're not here to tell kids what to do. We're really more empower them. It's, again, back to parenting 101. It's how we parent in general. So different technology, but yes, parenting, just going back to the basics.
Visor is another one that does the same thing, and it will go through your child's social media accounts, whatever ones you want to link to it, and it will give you a report if the keywords, whatever you set, the keywords you set that you want to look for, or even things like a public account. If something is geotagged, if a post is geotagged on a public account, it'll give you a notification. So it's awesome technology. It's VISR, Visor, free.
And
too.
there's another one called Pocket Guardian, and it does 14 of the major social media feeds. And Pocket Guardian.
And our pact is awesome. None of us are sponsored, right?
No, we don't sponsor any of
sponsorships
these
here.
guys.
We just like them.
Yeah.
We like the technology.
Awesome. So
Our pact. In our pact, you can actually make apps disappear during the app bedtime, which is awesome. So if your kids come home and 4 to 6 is homework time, then Snapchat won't even be visible on their phone from 4 to 6. So the temptation is gone.
is
So
our
great.
pact O-R-O-U-R?
Our yes,
Okay.
our pact to use this safely.
I have a friend who, when this is anecdotal, but he he just has like super frank conversations about sex, but like grandma had sex and like things like that, and like just having conversations and like normalizing conversations. I mean, like, and bringing it to a place where, because if you're gonna treat the subjects taboo, they're gonna know that, and then they're not gonna be comfortable talking to you. And so the more you can normalize it and be like, hey, so apparently you're looking at porn now. Great, let's have a conversation about porn, because that's what we're doing now. And the more you can say, like, you apparently think you're an adult, I'm gonna talk to you like an adult. Let's talk about what that means, and like bring it to where, if they want to bring it to that level, bring it there, and let them show you how comfortable or uncomfortable they are with it, and then it'll help. I mean, people have to come out of their comfort zone as well. But like, honestly, if your 14-year-old's looking at all kinds of porn, you're like, okay, we're having that conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about explicitly what you're looking at. And if they're comfortable looking at it, they should be comfortable talking about it with you.
The average high school boy watches about 4 hours of porn a week.
Nice.
That's the study, and that's
Nice.
yeah, that's it. The average.
I would say this too. One of the things that I've done with porn and sex is to talk to parents about it first and get their comfort level. So if the parent is saying, "Oh my God, my kid is watching porn," my next question is, "How do you feel about that?" So I want to know their comfort level, because there are some parents who literally sex scares them. Their own sexual life scares them. Sex in general scares them. They don't watch TV because, and if that's that, I don't want that parent to go home and have that conversation. I want them to say, "Bring your kid in, let's have it together." If that parent says, "Oh, I don't care, I have sex," then I say, "Okay, let's talk about how do you want to present this to your kid then." Right? I remember having one conversation with a 17-year-old boy who was really confused about why porn was such a bad thing. And I knew he liked comics, so I said, "Have you seen the Avengers movies?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you expect Iron Man to fly through the air right now?" He said, "No." I was like, "Why don't you expect that?" He's like, "'Cause it's fake, it's CGI, blah, blah, blah." I said, "That's what porn is. Porn is a set. People go on set, they say action, they say cut, that's why it's not as real as you think it is. And so having those type of conversations with kids, I think really helps them to begin to monitor. Like, you're coming at their level. You're not saying porn is bad. They don't get that yet. It's sex. Why is sex bad? But you want to help them understand why maybe idolizing porn or getting their sex education from porn isn't the healthiest. Because again, you wouldn't get your fighting style from Captain America because he's a super soldier. And your kid's like, yeah, no, duh. Okay then, so let's not do this. So I think for me, my overall thing is first gauge the parents, level of tolerance with sex, and if they have a high enough level, then give them the tools. If they have a really like no tolerance for it, then you might want to get them some more resources so they don't have to do it on their own.
But the thing though is the first thing is you need to know that that's what they're doing, because the most dangerous part is when the kids are watching it and the parents don't know. And they may go months, years doing it, and that's how they form their belief system. And so that's where, whether you use a monitoring software or whether you start having conversations, that needs to be part of the discourse. I mean, and everyone has different relationships with their kids, different awarenesses, but, we always recommend it needs to be a topic, and, you have to start talking about it. And I don't know of very many kids that are going to go up like, hey mom, I watched porn today, let's talk about, they're not going to bring it up. So we have to be able to catch them, or know that it's happening, and then use it as a conversation starter, and then set parameters around it.
There is no technology that can block porn, period. Let's face it. If a 13-year-old wants to see a naked woman somewhere, he will find a way. No matter what filters you put, whatever strong firewall you have, there is always a way. Let's just accept that. What you can do, is have some technology, so Anglo is one of them, allows you to see what's going on, so you could get a report and say, okay, that's what they want, so you can have a conversation about that. But to believe that there's a way to block it, that's never going to happen.
I think the worst thing to probably do, though, is to know that it's happening and not engage in the conversation.
Yes.
Because kids are so perceptive. They know what you feel about them the moment you walk into the room, right? Like a substitute teacher, they come into the room, the whole class knows this is going to be great, or this is going to be awful, just by the demeanor of the sub, right? It's instant. So kids will know. If their parents know what's going on, if their parents know that they're watching porn, I feel like the kids are going to get that. They're going to read that, because something's going to be different. Something's going to be off. So if the kid senses that, if your student senses, like, dude, they know. They totally know. But nothing's happening. And a week goes by and nothing happened. That's going to show that that parent just doesn't even care, right? One, this is okay. Two, I'm going to pretend I don't know. So that means that I don't care enough to engage in that hard conversation. I think that sends the complete opposite message. If you sit down and you go, Johnny, I don't even know how to start this conversation. This is hard for me too, but here we are. You're embarrassed, I'm embarrassed. Let's be embarrassed together, but let's get through it. That shows them, like, I care so much about you, I'm not going to let this go unnoticed. We're going to get through it together.
There's no app that will block it altogether, and the kids will find a way, but you can make it pretty hard. Like, you can,
we are making it pretty hard, yes.
You're going to use, either a software that blocks the browser on their phone, or you take away the phone at night. You can make it difficult for them and limit how much they engage in it by how hard you make it, and I think that's important to have.
Phone bedtime is a great idea. Phone bedtime. Kids don't need it late at night. All the studies show the later at night you use it, the more your depressive symptoms go up.
And also, kids are very savvy. So again, going back to stories, just in general, not just porn, but kids know how. Like, I didn't know for a very long time that you could get on Wi-Fi with the DS. So again, you can set down all the limits, but kids will be like, "Oh, I have a new device. I'm going to figure out how to do it." And there's Wi-Fi everywhere you walk. So even if you have things shut down, if a kid accesses another Wi-Fi network where you haven't put parameters on that, then they're going to get into it that way. So
I'm of the ilk that you've got to address this, because the porn problem is just one subset of an abuse problem and a sexual abuse. And between the bullying and the porn, the sexual abuse of young women is going through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's all linked. It's all done. Some of the researchers I work with. And so we need to address this in health class as a part of sex education. Right up front, everyone knows, have the conversation with just the boys and just the girls, as I did in 5th grade, or with them together. Because guess what? We have to, if we can't ignore it anymore, we can't avoid it anymore, so we got to go right at it. And we got to go right at it in 4th and 5th grade. As soon as you give them the smartphone, They got to have that talk. The talk has to happen with the smartphone.
Do you know the average age of the first smartphone is 6 years old?
The average exposure to pornography is 3rd grade through someone else's device,
Yes.
a brother or sister.
So I'm from Chicago, but I now have the opportunity to live in Salt Lake City, which has really fun laws around what you're allowed to talk about. You literally can get a misdemeanor or a felony if you say the word condom in a classroom. So yeah, so we and every year there's a bill up on our hill that talks about like, please can you extend this? Can they get opt-in? Like, please give us some opportunity to give evidence-based stuff to our children, and they don't have it. So in states like mine, exactly, and a lot of legislators. So
And respect.
exactly, it does fall upon parents and peer groups because it can't even fall to the educators because the educators are like handcuffed on what they can and cannot say. So there are parameters. I mean, we were talking about California state laws, but I mean, there's law. Every state has unique, strange little laws about what you're allowed to do as an educator and what you're allowed not to do.
Even just district to district.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The policies of what your district, what your board is okay with as far as sex education is very different from district to district.
And
I work in a very conservative school, so ours is really conservative.
The school is going to provide some foundation, but I think it's really important for us as educators, parents, and professionals to also think, how can we make sure that we're outside of school, how are we helping our kids? Because again, our kids sit in class, we all had health class, we all sat there and nodded at the pictures and laughed and giggled, but we also have to talk about afterwards when our kids are actually looking at Cosmo and Playboy and all these things. They're online now. What are they actually doing and how are we helping them? So I agree, it goes beyond policy, it goes beyond just what's in the classroom too.
But there are real socioeconomic challenges. When I'm in the South Bronx or Western Brooklyn and I'm there, the parents don't show up, but
Yes.
once a year when they have to sign
Yes.
a blue card because
Yeah.
they live 3 districts away and they're working 3 jobs and they're divorced or they're in jail. And so the school in certain areas has to play a much bigger role
agree.
than otherwise. So it's not easy is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but we can't ignore it
So
either.
we have to give our kids steps on what to do, not just saying don't watch it or it's not good for you, but then once it does come up, because you're right, I think young kids do sometimes stumble. Like I think someone said earlier they put in rock cleavage and the wrong thing came up when they were studying about rocks. So it's like, what do we do when I do see it? Because it is embarrassing, right? It's funny or it's embarrassing, but what do we? I'm
or
sure
there's shame in the household.
Yeah.
Like if it depending on you've got 25 kids in the class, they got 25 different parents situations happening at their house and different levels and ways that you could have a very open household and you can have a very religious household and you can have, everyone's got different ways. So I think from an administration point of view, like that's a hornet's nest for an administration to have to figure out, because some of them are going to be like, why are you doctoring my kids?
And wrap up and just say thank you guys so much for being on the panel and offering such amazing insight. And to those of you who asked the questions and gave us comments, thank you guys so much as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.